Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending the Street Transportation Department's second virtual public meeting about the Colter Street Pedestrian and Bicycle Improvements Project. We appreciate you joining us for this virtual community engagement. My name is Heather Murphy, and I work in communications and public engagement for the Street Transportation Department. It is my pleasure to introduce our Street Transportation Director, Keamy Knutson, for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Heather. It's fabulous to be here, to be able to speak to you all about a very important project for us. Colter Street is one of those streets where we were really looking to be able to do some fantastic things when it comes to be able to accommodate additional modes of traffic. I'm the director of the Street Transportation Department. My department is responsible for projects like this and delivering projects like this. But I'll tell you one thing about that's near and dear to my heart is to be able to engage with our community members and those who are vested in the projects we're looking to put out. So we really would like to make sure we have a good opportunity to be able to engage with the public, but also hear from you, share information with you, and really to make the project more successful that way. Thanks, Heather.
Our main presenter today is Mr. Brian Fellows. Brian is the principal planner for the City of Phoenix Street Transportation Department. He has 28 years experience in public, private, nonprofit, and academic sectors, including 17 years specializing in multimodal transportation and the built environment. In addition to managing this project, Brian oversees the Transportation 2050 mobility studies, which have the goal of improving mobility and accessibility for people of all ages and abilities. Brian, welcome.
Thanks, Heather. And thanks everyone for joining us in this virtual meeting number 2. Some of you may have joined us for virtual public meeting number 1 several months ago. We're going to pick up where that left off and provide you with some information on where we are in the process, how the designs are coming along, some of the results that you have provided us when some of you took the online survey several months ago, and then talk about next steps.
So Brian, can you give us a little insight into how we got to this particular project area and the intent of this project?
Yeah, sure, Heather. As you can see here, the corridor along Colter Street is pretty long. It's 3 miles between 15th Avenue and 20th Street. Makes a very good alternative route between Missouri and Camelback. Really early on, at the beginning of the project, which really started more than a year and a half ago, we've always wanted to create or develop Colter into a safe, pleasant, low-stress corridor. And when we say for people who walk and ride bicycles, we're talking about walking dogs, walking to school, or maybe people who are in wheelchair or assistive devices, riding their bicycles. And again, as this would be a really nice alternative route for Missouri and for Camelback. So since the project corridor itself was so long, 3 miles, we really wanted to kind of humanize it or make it a little bit easier for neighbors and you all to kind of understand, and to kind of, which broke it down into segments. You can see these are the 6 project segments. Each of them is a half mile in length. And that's the way the survey was organized as well. And that's the way the preliminary project designs are portrayed as well.
Well, Brian, can you give us some of the features that could give us a refresher on some of the features that would make Colter a good place, a more comfortable place for people walking or riding bicycles?
Yeah, I'll do that here, Heather. There's several features that some of you who may have tuned into the virtual public meeting number 1, you may have seen these. If you've been into the web page and seen the roll plots, you'll see some of these too. But let's just review, just to show you some of these recommended facilities in no particular order, and just see what they are and review. First of all, there's something called a Shara. This is just paint. It's paint that has a bicycle symbol and then those 2 rooftop-looking things on top. And really what it is just a reminder, and this wouldn't be everywhere on every street, but in certain segments where it's recommended, just a reminder to motorists that bicyclists can be here, and they can be in the lane, precisely where that marking is. That doesn't mean that's where cyclists have to ride. That's a recommendation. If you don't feel comfortable being out in the lane, you can always ride closer to the curb or closer to parked cars if you need to do that. Many of you have probably seen bicycle lanes. This is just a combination of that long stripe with bicycle symbols. There are also signs that would be posted along the side of the road. Again, just a reminder that this is a dedicated facility for preferential use by people who ride bicycles. A hawk signal, you've seen this one before, perhaps. This is right at Central and Colter. That's the existing one. What it is just certain kind of groupings of signals that are mounted on mast arms that extend across the street. A bicyclist can approach from either side, push the button, just like you'd push any signal push button that you might encounter. And that initiates some flashing lights, which will stop traffic, and then the bicyclists and often cases pedestrians can move right across safely. A bike hawk is a slightly different take on a hawk. And you might be able to see the difference is that green area. That green area would be recommended for people riding bikes. The white crosswalk is for people who are walking. And really what this does is in certain high use areas where you get, many people during maybe rush hour or high use areas, maybe on weekends or whatever, you get bicyclists that we would kind of funnel towards the green area, and the people on foot funnel toward the white area, and it really just kind of keep them separated and keep them from colliding with one another. There are quite a few kinds of flashing beacons. Here are two. The one on the left is called a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. The one on the right is called a circular rapid flashing beacon. The city, Street Transportation Department, right now is preferring the circular rapid flashing beacon. And you can see in the roll plots, if you'd like to view those, that those are recommended, I think, in at least one location throughout the 3-mile corridor. A multi-use path is, in this case, as you can see, it looks just like an extra wide sidewalk. But the key feature is that it is up off the street, it is behind the curb. This one happens to be striped. You can see that dashed yellow line going down the middle. Some are, some aren't. It's meant to convey all different kinds of people using foot, bike, wheelchair, walking dogs, walking to school, and have them be safe and out of the way from traffic. A little bit different from a multi-use path is a two-way cycle track. And you can see in this example, this one, it is as two-way cycle tracks are in the street. And you can see it conveys bicyclists going both directions. And you can see it's separated from traffic by not only a horizontal buffer, those stripes that you see, but also vertical buffers, those flex posts. The vertical buffer could be a variety of things. This picture just shows the flex posts, and that's what keeps the vehicles and the bicyclists where they're supposed to be, and minimizes collisions. A traffic mini circle, some of you may have seen some of these, is just a circular, generally concrete facility, curbed facility in the middle of the street. And what that does is it's usually at an intersection, and it causes drivers to really kind of slow down and go through that intersection slower than they might normally go. And that's what this is all about. The Colter Street project is about letting people share this space, share Colter Street, but also to do it at a very slow speed. We want everyone to be safe, and speed is the key. Lower speed is the key to making things safe. So this is just one way we have to do that. We would do this at intersections. There are several of these recommended over the 3-mile segment. But just a note, you can see in the fine print down there, this is just an example of a traffic circle. It's the best one we could find, but it unfortunately had landscaping in it. The city does not plant or maintain or water any kind of landscaping or trees in the middle of those. They would have to be some kind of hardscape surface. A ribbon curb is recommended in a couple really small areas throughout the 3-mile corridor. We wanted to have kind of a less intrusive option from a sidewalk. Sidewalks are some people like them, some people don't. We wanted to have the option of a ribbon curb for some folks. You can see that it looks a little bit different than a sidewalk might because there is no vertical curb there. It's just a strip of pavers or concrete. What it does is it can delineate a space for walking or bicycling. Probably even more importantly, it visually narrows the street for a motorist. And when they perceive a narrower street, they will tend to slow down. Studies have shown that. We're hoping that if this reaches final design, this is a solution for reducing speeds as well. This is called a chicane. Again, the ones, if these were to be used anywhere on the corridor, there would be no grass or trees in the middle. This is just a very good example of one. But you can see it's another way, kind of like one or two of the other things I've shown up to this point, where motorists are actually, they need to deflect a little bit. They need to veer a little bit when they get to one of these things, and as they do that, they will usually slow down. And this is one way to do that. It just kind of creates an S curve. There's a matching one of one of these chicanes on the other side of the street. That's generally the way you install them. And it's just another strategy to help keep people going slowly and keep everybody safe. This is a full traffic signal. I mean, everybody has probably seen these things, including what we call the countdown clock at the bottom that counts down the remaining walk time that a pedestrian or a bicyclist might have. And they're present everywhere in the city. I believe there's one that's possibly even recommended in one of these, or was recommended during at some point of the project during one of these. A speed hump is really yet another strategy to keep motorists from increasing their speed. These things are only 3 to 4 inches high. They feel a lot taller when you go over them, but they really are only 3 to 4 inches high. And in contrast to our other strategies, like I've just shown chicanes and traffic circles, which cause horizontal deflection or friction, making motorists maybe veer a little bit from one side to the other. This is vertical deflection, and it has the similar effect. It can slow people down again, so we keep our streets slow and safe. So what I'd like to do now is just kind of explain some of the public outreach efforts we went through, summarize some of the survey results, how these might go to better inform our project design based on what you've told us. I'll start out by saying virtual public meeting number 1 was posted on the project webpage back in October 23rd of 2020. It will remain up there even after we've posted this one, public meeting number 2. So you're free to go back and look at those whenever you like. Earlier in the process, in the project, our communications and public engagement team, led by Heather and her colleagues, made sure that we had 10,000 door hangers distributed in residences that are along this corridor. We also installed 14 temporary road signs. Both of these strategies were to get people to come to the website, webpage, take the survey, look at the roll plots, familiarize themselves with the project. We also gave the some of the plans to the City of Phoenix Alhambra Village Planning Committee for them to look at and comment on. In the end, after the 4 or 5 week comment period expired late last year, we got 436 responses, which Heather and I were pretty happy with. I was very happy. The more comment you can get, good, bad, or indifferent, helps us to come up with responsible and appropriate solutions. In terms of what we do from here, pardon me?
Can you go ahead and share with our viewers how people weighed in on the features of this project?
Absolutely. What I'll do is kind of show you segment by segment what the average ratings were for the complement of solutions you see. Like for instance here, segment 1, 15th Avenue to 7th Avenue. Within this segment, you see those 5 recommended solutions in no particular order. And the average star rating for each one of those in aggregate grouped together were 3.97 out of 5. In segment 2, 7th Avenue to Central, those 4 recommended solutions in aggregate averaged 3.98 out of 5. Segment 3, Central Avenue to 7th Street, the 3 recommended solutions you see averaged a rating of 3.57 stars out of 5. Segment 4, 7th Street to 12th Street, those 5 solutions had an average star rating of 4.17 out of 5. Segment 5, 12th Street to 16th Street, the 5 solutions had an average star rating of 3.97 stars out of 5. And finally, in segment 6, these 6 solutions garnered an average star rating of 2.9 stars out of 5. And I would just point you again to the project webpage and invite you to go back anytime, take a look at the revised roll plots and recommendations, and would like to thank you for your participation.
Brian, I'd like to mention a couple of the topics that came up from your interaction. And one of the main questions that we got was, why is Colter being considered as this route? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, and so another little bit of history about this. Early on, the projects I mentioned earlier, one of them was Missouri Avenue. The city embarked on a kind of a not dissimilar project to make some improvements to the way that flowed, how it would accommodate better people riding bikes and on foot. And the results did not fare very well. So that's when we went, looked at the map again, looked at where people are traveling by foot and by bike. We wanted to have a really good second choice, a route that would get people to where they're going, where they want to go, and to be able to do that, directly, not circuitously, and safely. And so that's how we arrived at Colter Street.
Another one of the questions dealt with neighbors in the 15th Avenue and Colter area who had concerns about a proposed new opening through the frontage road median. And if you can, please explain these concerns and how the community's input led to a change in your proposed plan.
So one of the early recommended portions of the project was to essentially carve an opening in the median or the separator between the frontage road and the travel lanes. That was originally located at Orange, and based on some conversations and some survey responses, we heard what you said, and had we left it there, again, just as a recommendation, it might cause people to coming off the major arterial to travel down Orange, maybe more so than they normally would. What we did in response to your concerns was we moved that opening up actually to the alley immediately north of Orange. So it is not a direct shot to Orange. And our feeling is that by offsetting it like that, it actually opens onto an alley in the same configuration as the opening in the median further south towards Camelback does. Provides access to the alley, but it does not provide direct access to Orange or any other street. And we're hoping that that has the effect of keeping any additional traffic very, very low.
One of the other concerns dealt with moving people to or through the Piestoa Peak Sound Wall at 18th Street. And again, in discussion with members of the community and ADOT, you arrived at a solution for that doesn't include going through the sound wall. Can you explain that in more detail?
Yeah, I had some really good conversations with some real passionate neighbors on that east end of the corridor, between the Piestoa Freeway and 18th Street, and a lot of those conversations happened after the formal comment period, and I'm glad I took the time to listen to them, because they had some great ideas. And one of the ones that we ultimately favored was to not carve the holes in the sound wall, but instead to route the recommended multi-use path that would occur on the west side of the sound wall, on the freeway side of the sound wall, route that south towards Camelback, but then loop it back up around the sound wall on the other side. So no holes would be needed. There are concerns about additional light and noise. Hopefully we address that.
Okay, Brian, why don't we talk about the project and where it is right now?
Yeah, sure, Heather. So the project status to date is that items number 1 and 2 have been completed. We've clarified the project goals and feasibility early on. Your comments, your phone calls, your emails, your survey responses really helped to solidify that and confirm that as we went on. So thank you for that. Public meeting number 1, we're done with that. We recorded and posted that last year, and some of you may have seen that. Right now in progress, we are working on what we call the preliminary design, the very early stages of design, as we typically do. And we're watching public meeting number 2, which will be posted on the webpage for quite some time for you to view, along with public meeting number 1, if you like. After that, we get the task of seeking funding for final design. And then when we find that funding, we complete that design and move on to seeking funding for construction. And when we find the construction funding, then we can begin that construction project.
So Brian, I'll kind of jump in here on this next slide here, and I think it's important to point out how we got to where we're at today is we were able to get some funding for looking at this project, the Colter Street project, and that was funding we were able to get from actually outside sources to be able to help do the preliminary design that Brian's talked about. the timeline that's kind of going from this point forward, it really is dependent upon more on funding than it is on our ability to get things done in a quicker manner. So if funding comes available to us earlier, we're able to move quicker through the stages of the project. But you see right now we're at the planning study phases, and then you can see that there's a funding piece that kind of Brian laid out for both the design and the construction. And then we have those kind of firm timelines of how long design would take, how much would, if we need right away or utility work, and then construction to be able to do this project. But I think the key component there, the green portions of this timeline, are related to funding. And so I think as more support we have from the community, and I would also mention that as we're seeing a lot more support at the regional level and the federal level financially for projects like this one, I think our ability to be able to move forward with this project will be much improved as we see those funding opportunities become available. So we're looking forward to that. We obviously don't want this project to be something that just kind of lingers on. We would like to move forward as quickly as we can, given the public support, given financial support and things like that. So we want everybody to be kind of optimistic about that. We are, but of course we just don't want anybody to have unrealistic expectation of our ability to deliver this when we don't have the funding identified at this point in time. So I want to say thank you to Heather and thank you to Brian for facilitating this meeting, walking those who are in the audience through kind of where we are on this project. The Colter Street ped and bike improvements project is an important one for us. And as I mentioned before, funding is a key issue when we're trying to move forward these projects. But I would tell you just equally as important is engagement from the community for people who support projects like this. I will mention to you that all the information that you've heard in this meeting and the ones from the previous meeting, and then a lot of the information that Brian shared is available on our project webpage. And so if you're able to go there anytime you want, you'll get more updated on our status of where we are on the project. And you can also see all the information that happened previously. But we commit to, as things change, if like say funding and things going forward change, we'll be coming out to be able to make sure we keep you informed. And we'll keep some of those updates as well on our webpage. So I just wanted to thank you in advance for being here. And thank you again, Brian and Heather, for taking us through this. And this is a very important project for us, and we hope you enjoy the information we were able to provide today.
Thank you, Keeney. Thank you, Brian. And most importantly, thank you to the members of the community who have participated in this presentation. The great thing about a virtual presentation is that you can flip back and forth and revisit some segments to see what the recommendations and ratings are. We invite you to do that, and please, by all means, visit the project website at Phoenix.gov/street/Colter Street Ped Bike. Thank you.